Welcome to the Battle Ready Podcast. My name is Aaron McManus, and I'm here with my dad, Erwin.
Hey, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. We kind of had a little bit of a dark podcast in the last one.
I'm sorry.
No,
I apologize.
It's okay.
I was really heated.
It's okay. We had to get it out. We had to get it out of our system, and here we are. So I have a couple things. I don't really like football, but I do like football, like a few football players. I don't have a team. I don't care about LA Rams. I don't care about LA Chargers. I don't care about any of it. But I do like Joe Burrows. And he got hurt, so our prayers are with Joe Burrows.
Absolutely.
We hope that you have a speedy recovery.
Aaron, it's Burrow.
Burrow.
I'm going to call him whatever I want to call him.
Sorry.
Burrows, Burrow. Is it Burrow?
Burrow. Sorry.
Go Burrow.
Well, no, I don't care.
No, come on.
Let's jump into, we just watched the Queen's Gambit. Which is it the Queen's Gambit or the Queen Gambit?
Queens.
If you want to correct me.
Possessive.
The Queen's Gambit. It's not a true story, but it feels like it's the unofficial story of Bobby Fischer.
It feels like the female version of a Bobby Fischer.
Bobby Fischer
Absolutely,
story.
yeah.
Kind of like, what is it? Like is it the 60s, 70s?
Yeah, it was set in the 60s.
But it's on Netflix. Kind of a cool show. I liked it. You taught me how to play chess when I was 4 years old, so that's always been in our family.
Absolutely, it's your move.
It is my move, but we play on a little app where we play against each other, and we have a chess board that goes with us around the world. Whenever we're in hotels, we'll pull it out and play. You are much better than I am, but I have beat you a few times.
You have a few victories. You do.
And I think I beat you last Christmas in under 7 moves, and that
No, actually
under 11 moves.
It wasn't. No. It was. No. You have a mismemory.
No, I did.
I've never been beaten in under 11 moves.
I beat you very quickly. I just beat you in 33, but
okay. Well, after you beat me in 33 moves, how many moves did I take to beat you the next game?
Oh my gosh,
it was 8.
8.
Okay.
No, I don't even think it was 8. I think it was under 8.
No, it was 8.
It was 8.
Yeah.
But last Christmas was my first victory in 31 years.
Well done.
Thank you. It's taken me a while. You were phenomenal. Yeah, but you're also unofficially ranked. You've beaten, what is it, 2,500?
22, 23.
Yeah, you've beaten some really high up there players. I've never played it officially.
That's when I used to play.
That's when you used to play.
It's been a long time.
So chess. Everybody get into chess. It makes me happy though. It's an intelligent game. So when people are playing it, they're going to grow, which I do love.
Well, I learned from my grandfather. So you received generationally, and something I received, and he taught me when I was 3 years old, and he was brutal.
Do you notice how he said 3 when I said 4? He just had a 1-up me.
Well, you weren't ready at 3. I had to wait till you were a little more mature. Okay. And I remember teaching you at 3.
Okay.
And by the way,
there's also a great book. Brooke didn't like it because I bought it for Christmas a couple years ago, but it's called The Lunesburg Variation.
Oh, I love that book.
I love that book.
Oh, come on, Brooke.
Did you even read it? You didn't read it.
It's an antique. It was interesting.
Oh, okay. It's a great book. I love the book. It's a short read. If you can find it on Amazon, you can buy it used.
No, actually, here's I think an interesting point. I taught you to play chess when you were 3, and the reason I believed
I was 4.
You could play at 4, whatever, since you have a better memory of it at 4, and is that I was taught at 3, so I knew that someone could learn. I wonder how many times we actually limit our human capacity, or even the human capacity of others, because we've never seen it done before. And so it was just natural in our home to learn how to play when you're 3, 4, 5 years old, and to play all the time, to learn all the moves, and to even develop a more complex game. I mean, I don't think my game became more complex till I was probably 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. And but by the time I was 10, I had a pretty strong mastery of the game, and which I could beat pretty much any adult I would face. And I think a lot of times we limit our intellectual capacity, our capacity in every arena, because we were just told you can't do that yet.
Joe Burrow got injured.
What I liked about Joe Burrow is I think a couple of weeks ago, I mean, I know you love him and as a player, but I think a couple of weeks ago he got hit by 2 players late. And he looked for the flag, and the referee did not throw a flag. I think even the defenders looked, and there was no flag. And instead of whining, complaining, instead of yelling at the referee, evidently he looked at the defenders and he said, "That's okay. When I'm the GOAT, I'm going to get that call." and they were talking about how everyone was shocked that he would say that. He was like saying, "Hey, I'm a rookie. I don't get that call. You're going to get to hit me really illegal even, but it's okay. I'm not going to complain. One day I'm going to get that call." So there's like a mindset that enters in even when someone achieves greatness. And I think one of the reasons you like Joe Burrow is because he's got that swagger to him, but he also is able to live up to the swagger. Like, he actually has the talent and the ability and the mindset. And I think one of the reasons I like chess so much is that one is you have a limited board, you have a limited number of pieces and places, and yet you have unlimited possibilities based on the dynamics between two players. I just think it's really important in life to realize that everyone has limitations and every situation has certain limitations, but it doesn't mean you don't have endless possibilities and opportunities in the middle of it. I mean, how many times have you felt like stuck and you feel like I don't really have any options? And yet if you step back and look at the board afresh, you'll find that your life is full of other options. And I know during even the pandemic and during the quarantine, people have felt really stuck. And they feel like there's not a lot of places they can move. But if you'll step back and look at it with fresh eyes, you'll see new possibilities. And, and then I think it's one of the things I learned when I was young was the power of choice. If you make a good move, how many times have you made a move and you thought it was a good move, and then afterwards you realized, I didn't see that, right? And one of the things that taught me was to try to pay attention and look to see what are the consequences that I may not be paying attention to. I mean, how many decisions have you ever made in your life where the consequences were almost surprising because you didn't step back before you made the choice and look at the implications of that choice? And I think there's also like a third dynamic is the strongest moves are both offensive and defensive. And there's a sense where, like in life, you want to risk and make progress and you want to take territory, take ground, but you also want to be defensive. You want to make sure you're protecting your integrity, your character, and who you are as a person. So there's this interesting tension between expanding and deepening at the same time. So one of the things I love about chess is I feel like it really has a lot of great life lessons in it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting that we get so like wrapped up into these shows that kind of give us a sense of freedom in a time where I feel like most of our freedoms are being taken away from us.
Yeah, because you're not doing too good today.
No, probably not doing super good today mentally, but I think it's off of a weekend where I was sitting at dinner last night and the guy goes, "Well, we'll see you in a few months." And I was like, "What do you mean we'll see you in a few months?" And he was like, "Oh, we're closing down again." And I was like, "That's ridiculous. We're sitting outside probably, I mean, not kidding, like probably 10, 15 feet away from the next table." Like they were taking 6 feet to like the nth degree. And it's like a local sushi spot that we like to go to and a lot of people like to go to. And we're sitting in a parking lot underneath the tent with all these heaters, and the guy's like, "Yeah, it's just crazy. Like, what are we supposed to do, And it kind of made me think, one, how hard we try to escape, but then when we come back to reality hasn't really gotten any better. And it's kind of wild to think that we're 11 months into this. We're closing out November in a few weeks, and we will have been in this space for a year. And it's hard to have hope sometimes when it's like more of your options are getting shut down and everyone's like, where are you going to go during all of this? And it's like, we're going to go to the most free place. But also, at what point did the place that we come from stop being so free? And it's just a little frustrating at times. So like we watch these shows and it's like a great escape and it's a great, like we were talking about chess and what'd you learn from it? I'm like, I don't know. I learned that you can, like, growing up, it was probably like an ego thing. Like, oh, you don't play chess. Like, that's sweet. Like you're a primitive man.
That's not what I was trying to teach you.
No, I know, but like, and it was interesting because, my great grandfather, who was pretty much raised you, would tell me like, people who speak slow think slow. and he was like an intellectual elitist, which is where I think the chip on my shoulder comes from. You've had to teach me since to be kinder and to be more open to people. But but I think chess is one of those things that creates an intellectual stimulation and this ability to go to war with someone else's mind in a healthy way. Mm-hmm. In a way, we've left chess matches angry and having to sit there and like reflect back moves, going, this is where it broke down for you. And this
See,
is
for
where,
me, it's a little different.
What do you mean it's a little different?
Well, when I win, I'm happy, and when you win, I'm happy.
That's not true.
Because when you win, I feel like
I remember
it's an expression of my ability
we
to
were
teach you. So I still
we were sitting in your house last December when I beat you, and you sat there in silence.
Well, it might have been the first time I lost by accident.
No, I've never beat you before, so it's not even. That's like not even close. I've like never even come close to beating
I just
you.
mean in general.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So
And
you've never like given me a win ever. That's not a thing.
well, I bet I give you room to play.
You do give me room to play. You probably give me 6 moves on most games.
Because I want you to step into the complexity of it a little bit more. But I think you're really where a lot of people are. We just celebrated Thanksgiving, but even that's under the shadow of everything that's being lost. This is supposed to be a time of joy and celebration and peace and community and friendship, and then we're being told, no, you need to do this alone. And I think people are really struggling right now, and watching the Queens of Gambit. And by the way, the other show that's kind of still in the sweet spot is The Crown, which is also a chess game. And we're entertaining ourselves as a way of escaping from the reality of life, right? And then once the series is over, maybe that's why when the series is over, we're more devastated because we have to go back to real life, which is almost going back to nothing sometimes.
The Crown is a great example of people's life who should be better than ours, but is worse than ours. It's so depressing. I can only watch like half a show at a time because it's so depressing.
Yeah, I've always been very much against aristocracies. And I've always had a anarchist kind of twist or, bent toward myself. And this series only reinforces how I think aristocracies do not have the right to exist. Why should someone be called a queen or someone be called a prince just because they happen to be born of one family? It's to me so absurd. And I know that we have friends listening in London and across the UK, and I don't mean any disrespect to you or anything or to your nation, but it just reinforces to me the tension of entitlement versus meritocracy. I really believe in a meritocracy where people have to work, and out of that work can be paid for the value and quality of their work. That as opposed to an entitlement mindset, which can be an aristocracy. And so then you're just born and you're a prince, you're a duke. But it can also be in a mindset of, this is what I deserve. This is one of my friends, Angela Davis, one of our friends, and she started a company called Army. And she talked about how they did like 150 days or something like that online for free of training people and providing people all this content and all this experience for free. And in the moment they put the experience online for subscription, they had the people who really were willing to pay for the value. Then they came back and did something else for free, and they said they gave like something away, and someone said, next time, give something away that has more value. And she said, I was just so struck how we're giving things away, and then people are angry we didn't give more away. And that becomes a part of the cultural entitlement. And the mindset of entitlement that you see in The Crown among the royalty can actually become a cultural mindset of entitlement that says, the government should be giving me this, the church should be giving me this, my parents should be giving me this, others should be giving me this, rather than all I want is opportunity to be the best version of myself and to create the best life that I can with the gifts and talents and determination that I have.
I don't have like the most positive thoughts on The Crown because last night, and that's the last thing I did before I went to sleep. I watched, what episode did I watch? I think I watched 7. And I mean, it's a very interesting thing. Like, yes, she's the queen. Yes, there's the prince. But are they the queen and the prince, or are they're in a way no different than the crown jewels on display in a museum? Like they one line they refer to Buckingham Palace as the prison. Yeah, one of I think it might have been someone talking about what Prince Charles would call Buckingham Palace, the prison. And it was he calls it the house, but they give it a nickname, and it was like a dark thing. And I was like, oh, it's very interesting that I think, we live in a time where you're not allowed to be a conqueror, right? Because that was the idea of a king, was that he protected a land
that he conquered
and protected the people inside of it. And it was on him to protect the people and to protect the land, and then to make trade possible. And then you worked your way up, and then you became somewhat closer to not being a peasant, right? The rest of us. But I do think it is interesting now that we're in a place where we don't take things from people in that way anymore. So now that we have this like facade of monarchy, because it really isn't monarchy anymore. It's a protected bloodline. And that was an interesting thing of the last episode I was listening to, is like all of this conversation around like how to keep the bloodline pure, how to keep and I'm like, at what point do we just go, you're just a human? And
but do we have our own sense
no
of
power.
Aristocracy when we have senators who have been there for 40, 50 years?
We do, of
when
course.
we have congressmen who are there,
of
and when we have family after family of family, generationally, it just keeps getting elected, and politics becomes their livelihood.
Same thing in churches, though.
Yeah.
You have like multi-generational pastors.
Which is something I was completely unaware of until the last 10 years.
Yeah, we didn't think that's something you could inherit.
Yeah, and nor is it something like you want to inherit.
No, no.
You would rather be able to do battle ready without having any relationship to being a pastor and just speak your mind, say whatever you want.
No, and maybe this is where the episode should go, because I think I've watched what people do to pastors. No, thank you. I'm good. Like, no, I'm being really honest. Like the people, like the mass general public, destroy public figures now. It does not matter if you're a good one or a bad one, or you've done good things or you've done bad things. At some point, it's like it really is just a matter of time before whatever bad thing you've done comes to light, and then it is compared to your status. So if you're famous enough, if you do bad things, it doesn't matter, because you're above. Your reputation is beyond the ability for the mass population to bring you down. Exhibit A would be like a Kardashian or the monarch, which is funny that they're in the same line.
Where your talent has paid the price for your character. Like, you don't have to have character because your talent kind of pays the price for your lack of character.
Yeah, or you're just fame. You're pure fame. Because wouldn't think like Kardashians are great business people, but I wouldn't say like they got famous by just being people. But it's like really, if there's anything more like modern art like than reality television, like you can knock it. I think a lot of people have, like, what they get famous for, they got famous for doing nothing. Like, yeah, that's the brilliance of the getting famous for doing nothing, is now they're getting paid for doing some things based on the thing that they did nothing for. But which essentially is the monarch. What have they done? They've done nothing except for be born and then show up and word things.
But I think I don't know if this is connected somehow, but I was getting coffee the other day.
Yes.
And I met this woman who is actually I've seen her for years, for probably 10 years. She's cold as ice. I mean, she's not warm.
In your neighborhood?
In my neighborhood,
Okay.
yeah. And she's always at the coffee shop where I go get coffee. And Kim and I both, talk about the fact that she's just a wall. Well, the other day, she actually talked to me. It's been 10 years, but it was because her friend was talking to me, and then he started asking me all these questions, and he started talking about fashion, and he was in the fabrics business for years. He was in the design.
Textiles. That's
yeah,
amazing.
textiles, yeah. And he, because he's been there so many years, knows a lot of people in the movie industry and then the world of art. And then she perked up when she heard me talk about fashion and then books. She goes, "What kind of books do you write?" And then I told her, and she was uninterested. And then, which is what I've experienced for 10 years. But then she said, "Well, I write books." And I said, "Really? What kind of books do you write?" She goes, "Well, I wrote a book on Andy Warhol." Man, I perked up and I started asking her all these questions. And she goes, "Yeah, I was really close to Andy Warhol. I guess she was one of like the women in his life." In the last series of his life. And she said, I started writing this book on him. And about halfway through, I said, and then she said some very colorful words, "Why does this book have to be true?" She said, half the stuff in the book I just made up.
No way.
She started telling me, she said, because really nobody knew what was true, what wasn't, and I didn't have enough material, for the whole thing, so I just started making up all this stuff.
That's crazy.
And then she said, and I wrote a second book about me, and I just made almost all of it up. and so I'm listening to her, and I thought, I'm really interested in Andy Warhol because he seemed like he was a guy that, like if you identified his talent, I don't know if you could, but he was able to always bring talented people together, and he directed talent to create interesting things. And as she was talking about his life, I was just thinking about how you're talking about the crown and aristocracy and all these different things. How in this conversation with this woman, she's talking about how Warhol kind of created this world and this mystique, and he almost created for himself an illusion of greatness that was maybe even bigger than who he really was. You're talking about the Kardashians and everything else, and how people become famous, but there was never any expectation on Andy Warhol that he would be like, let's say, like a good person or something like that. Like there's a lot of people in the world, in their career, you don't really attach their talent to their character. So let's say if a surgeon has affairs, or if a surgeon has a really dark life, you don't suddenly go, every surgeon is evil. Or if your plumber is a bad human being and you suddenly discover your plumber is unfaithful to his wife, you don't suddenly leap and go, every plumber is evil. When an actor is unfaithful, or when an actor is sleeping around, when an actor is a horrible human being, you actually don't, not only do you not say, oh, every actor is evil, but you go, oh, that's just a part of being an actor. You almost give them a pass and go, that's because they're artists. And then when you have a pastor, if you have one pastor who messes up, suddenly every pastor is evil. And so it seems like pastoring is the one place where if one person messes up, everyone's indicted. But not if you're a dentist. If your dentist had an affair, you don't go, wow, all dentists are having affairs. And ironically with politicians, I mean, how many politicians have we seen that are corrupt? I mean, how many of them have you seen use their position in government for their own personal benefit? And yet somehow we do the opposite. We may say, oh, all politicians are corrupt, but we accept that as the standard. And so they get to live like that.
They do, and it's kind of interesting. But what I mean by my connecting point with the Monarch and the Kardashians and these people who kind of are public figures is I think that it ends up in comparison to like what one, I think the American people are seen as free, and I'm like, you don't understand, we're not free at all now. Two, you compare it to pastors and you look at it and you go, what I think people, how they see us is very interesting because it's perfection without any type of level of trying to understand. It's, well, you need to be perfect because the moment you're not perfect, you're destroyed. We watched a good friend or a good distant friend be destroyed recently, and then people in his own family calling him out for other people supporting him, and then people on the opposite side, supporting him. And we were kind of watching this thing going, it's very interesting to watch how, like, when something bad happens, people, they look for absolute destruction. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I just like, who cares? Like, not that who cares. Yeah, he did some really bad things. But if you ever met him in person, he was not kind. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so you go, okay, that's probably a reflection of what was going on inside. But I had moments where he was incredibly kind to me. And so I look at it and I go, I dub that as just an incredibly complicated human who's going through stuff. Mm-hmm. But I don't have a desire to destroy people, and definitely not publicly. Mm-hmm. And so I always find it interesting when like the mob effect happens and people go for the jugular, even people inside of their own families. I'm like, do we not at any point just go, this person is falling apart? Do we have to put more cameras on it? And it's kind of in this collective nature of, you look at The Crown and how Princess Diana dies, and there were so many literally dies where there's cameras on her, and it's like, and then you bring it now, and it's like that has become the definition of how famous people like get destroyed.
But what's so
we
funny?
Watch and we take photos, and then we bring more awareness to the destruction, and then it's ruined.
Yeah, but that's a perfect example. The Crown I mean, I know it's not a historical document. It's not a documentary. And
Yeah.
but I always knew that Charles was having an affair with Camilla, or at least I always understood that.
Right.
I didn't know anything because I wasn't there.
Right.
But I've always understood that.
Right.
But I was never aware that Princess Diana was having endless affairs.
Oh, you didn't? That was everywhere. The bodyguard?
I see. I didn't know.
I was a kid and I knew that. That was like in the post all the time.
Did you guys know that?
No, and I'm not that far in the season yet. So
Okay,
Well,
sorry. What's that called?
Spoiler alert.
spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Well, this is historical.
It's historical.
So if you don't know, it's
not
kind
my
of on
fault.
you.
I know she dies.
But my whole point of this is that a lot of it is about likability. See, Charles just wasn't likable. And so I think that his infidelity stuck to him because of his lack of likability.
Well, there's an interesting moment where Princess Diana says, I'm starting to loathe you. And he says, well, good, you're catching up with the rest of us.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was such a revealing moment because it really had nothing to do with everyone else and had everything to do with how he didn't like himself. Mm-hmm. And, we're talking about people who exist. So obviously, like, respectfully and not, we don't want to be too on it, but like, as maybe an example that we can kind of look to. It's so interesting that I think so much self-destruction comes from how we see ourselves.
From self-loathing.
Yeah. Self-worth, self-respect.
Well, I want to finish that point saying I think part of the reason things didn't stick with Diana is because she was so likable. And that a lot of times when you make mistakes or when you mess up or when you just do something really horrific, the way you treated people has a lot to do with how many people become your net to help you overcome that disaster in your life. And then I want to go back to your point because I thought it was a really empathetic point that even with Charles's unlikability, public unlikability, we don't understand the pain and the brokenness that brought him to that kind of a place in his life. And I think sometimes that's why for me, I'm really careful. I try never to speak negatively about public people unless somehow I felt it was critically essential. I'm not a bandwagoner on criticism and negativity and judgment on people because I would like to be judged with grace myself.
We were having this conversation of like, do you get what you deserved in the end? When when people are going through some dark stuff inside and it's coming because it's leaking and coming out everywhere else. And I was a product of that situation in a lot of ways of what I had what I had seen and what I'd witnessed and what I had been
what you experienced.
Yeah. And you don't leave the same when you experience really heavy stuff.
You came back really
from working for that person. Yeah.
Impacted in a negative way. You came back with a lot of baggage from that.
Yeah, and I was talking, and it's interesting because the 3 or 4 guys I know that we saw a lot but didn't quite know what was going on. The conversations I've had with a few of them now, we've really had to process it, right? Like when your heroes fall, you realize that like, did you put the right worth, or value in it? Or did you, because for me, nothing changes. Like I knew that person was in a tough place in his life. And so I'm just going to look at everything that God did through him in my life as a positive. I'm not going to discredit it because then it discredits my faith and my own journey. Right. But I did find it interesting that the moment people were coming out about him, literally the same day, people were starting to group me into stuff going, if this guy is out and getting destroyed, we should start destroying Aaron for the things that he's done.
I could not understand that.
People I don't even know, which is interesting. So I had like a massive anxiety.
I know you want to run for your life.
Oh, I'm not. Well, this is the thing. I always want to go head on first. Like, you want to come for me? Let's go. But I'm going to destroy you as you destroy me, because I don't do well with losing. But then I was like, this guy I don't even know. And so some of his friends or their friends reached out and were like apologizing, trying to get him to take it down. Then we realized it was just kind of a Twitter troll. And then it was like, okay, so, if you really want to like say whatever you're going to say, I guess you got to say it. But why does like why do our past have to be on display for people? That's the thing that I wonder. Because I've been trying to write this book, and I'm like, I can go real heavy into some dark stuff that I was in, or I can move on in like the grace that I have received. But at the end of the day, I'm not the person that I worked for, but I am my own set of problems and mistakes and errors. And so we get into this place of like, is it comparison, or is it context, or is it just the life we've lived? But I will say that being a pastor in it, the thing that I've learned is that I don't think I actually like the projection of perfection more than anything else. And so I've said this a lot. I'm like, I'm not a pastor. Like, I don't want to be. Like, I don't accept the role. I accept the role of building the church, but I don't accept whatever projection of perfection that people have on me, because I'm still reserving the right to figure things out. And there are days where I'm like, I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah. And what's amazing to me is within weeks, I had people attacking me.
Yeah.
And going at me like I had done something wrong. And I responded to one, and you and Mariah said, hey,
delete it.
Don't do that. And it just made me so angry. And for whatever reason, people feel like if you're involved in ministry, you're like open game. You don't have feelings. You don't have emotions. You're not a human. They can come at you and try to destroy you too. And yet I know a lot of people, Aaron, who have actually said to me, and I think they've said to you, Aaron, because you're so transparent, you're so honest about your struggles and so honest about your past, and just, straight up about how when you're doing well or not doing well. I've had people tell me, you give them hope because they feel like, wow, I have a chance then. And I think the problem is when people try to act like they're perfect and they have it all together and they've never struggled. And by the way,
well, that is always the interesting thing, right? Like the people who throw the garbage usually end up being pretty dirty themselves.
Well, that's why they have garbage to throw.
Well, yeah, and it like there have been times in my past where people who I thought were friends tried to destroy me, or tried to destroy relationships that I was in, or like I'd come out of one in 2019, and it was ironic because that person's like roommate friend came to me and was like, you should know about this guy. He's like XYZ, and just kind of outs everything that he's been going through. And I was just, in that moment, I didn't feel like I needed to fight it anymore. I'm like, oh, it's the garbage man throwing garbage at the other garbage man. Like we're both in the mud. Like we're all just trying to figure this out. How do we rise above it and go like, why do we have this thing where we have to destroy each other along the way? Because even for my old boss and pastor and mentor and hero in a way, I still don't see him as this villain. I just still see him as going like, you're just an older version of me when you got me. Like, you have to now, hopefully someone grabs him and helps him get to the next place of health, because he helped me get to a place of health. And he broke some things along the way. So it's like, it happens. We're broken people.
Yeah, it reminds me of when Mel Gibson, who's pretty much been ostracized from the Hollywood community, when it was Mel Gibson who actually made the effort to redeem Robert Downey Jr. when he was at the bottom of his life.
And in and out of prison.
Yeah, and Robert Downey Jr. actually says Mel Gibson saved his life. And I just think that's such an extraordinary thing. I mean, obviously Mel Gibson, he needs people to save his life.
Yeah.
And maybe what we need to realize is we all need each other to save each other's lives, and we definitely need Jesus to save our lives. And that, unfortunately, we're more of a mess than we let people know. We're always in the struggle, and we don't all have the same struggles. You don't have same issues. And I've been married to Kim for 36 years. I've been faithful to my wife for the whole 36 years. But I struggle with night terrors.
Yeah.
And some days I'm terrified to go to sleep because I can't fix this about me. And it's overwhelming. And here I am. I've been a follower of Jesus for 42 years, and you would think I would be over this. You would think that would be in my past. You would think that I would be so...
But what are your night terrors of? Is it because something happened when you were younger, or something like, what do you think it was?
I've tried to identify them, and they started when I was young. They started when I was like 5 years old, if I can remember back. And that's probably what put me in a psychiatric chair by the time I was 12. And then I gave my life to Jesus right when I turned 20. And I've watched so much of my life become healthy and whole, and I can't shake this in my life.
Have we talked about it here? I don't think we have. We were in Copenhagen.
Yeah.
Did we talk about this on the podcast?
You might have mentioned it briefly.
Yeah, when you called me, and this isn't funny. We laugh at it in a dark way now. But you called me, and we had both just gone to our rooms, and we were seeing our good friend Thomas Hansen, and he dropped us off at the hotel, like shower real quick, and we grabbed dinner. And so we were showering. He was waiting in the lobby, and you call me and you're like, I can tell something's not well. And you're like, I'm dying. I think I'm dying. I need you to come here because I'm going to literally die. And I'm like half asleep. I wake up. I go running up like the stairs.
I think I said, I want to be able to say goodbye.
Yeah, you said I want to be able to say goodbye. And then like you're freaking out, and I get there, and then you're in the hallway and you're like out of it. And, you don't take drugs. Like, I mean, maybe we were jet lagged. Like, I don't know. We were like, that was a crazy trip.
I don't drink. I don't take drugs.
No.
I don't smoke.
No.
Anything.
I did all of those things. I was the one who did all those things. I was the one who got into all the trouble. And
I'm the one that has hallucinations.
Yeah. And I'm chilling. I'm doing all right.
Somehow this is not just.
No, it's not just. No, and then I like find you and I just start cussing. Like I'm losing my freaking mind. Like I'm like, and I just felt like it was crazy. I was like, I literally thought you were gonna die. It sounded like you were dying. You're like hyperventilating. It was bad. And I was like, what the heck just happened? And then you were like mad at me for cussing, and I'm like, no, I'm mad at you for dying. Like, what are you gonna be mad at me?
Yeah.
But I've grown up with that. I've almost had to like stab you with EpiPens before. Like, we all have these things that we struggle with and we go through. And I think it's how do we unlock freedom inside of whatever it is that is destroying our internal world.
Yeah.
And then connecting that to chess, it's kind of this game of getting trapped and getting free.
Well, that's
setting
good.
traps and then helping yourself get free in the movements of chess. And you have these different variations and these different openings and these different movements, and all to help free and trap the opponent. And so what were you going to say?
Actually, the other day, you beat me in a match where I was at 100% certainty that I was going to win. Mm-hmm. I had you trapped. I had you on your heels. I devastated your defenses.
And you had one error.
And then you beat me, and then you sent me, I survived. And I thought that was like, it's a beautiful metaphor what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That you actually found the singular way of escape, and actually not just escaped, you actually thrived and won.
Yeah. And that's usually, and maybe I'm a survivor because that's usually how I win. I don't almost ever win within 15 moves. I almost always win past 33 before 45. Mm-hmm. And so, because I think my end game is stronger, my survival game is stronger than my initial strategy.
You pay more attention when you're afraid.
It's very true. But even in college, even in high school, I never did well when you had like months long prep. I was the one who I would always make an agreement with my group projects. If you do all the work, I will present it. Because I can learn this overnight and make it sound awesome. But you have to do the groundwork because I don't have the consistency to get there. You know what I mean? Or the attention span. Mm-hmm. And so like you learn different things about yourself in these moments. Mm-hmm. But even when people, and I like back to people trying to destroy people, I think at the end of the day, you have like, we said something and I was like, we don't speak on the dead. Like you just don't speak
ill of the dead.
Yeah. You don't speak poorly on some part of someone's life that's died. Yeah. You have to just let it die and let it go. And it doesn't mean you have to trust the person right away, because because you're called to forgive. It doesn't mean you're called to trust.
Yeah, there's something that haven't been said that need to be said, but if it's been said 5,000 times, why jump on top of the pile?
Yeah, and I think there's something about our human nature and maybe our American culture where we almost celebritize the destructive moments in people's lives, and it's on that person whether or not they'll like survive and get out of it.
Yeah, but what's that phrase you use? I think our culture is really thirsty.
Our culture is very thirsty.
Really thirsty for gossip.
Yeah.
We're not just gossip. We're thirsty for the destruction of other people.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I think maybe this podcast and whatever book I end up writing, it would just be a self-destruction book.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if I out myself before you out me, then there's really nothing you can do to me.
Yeah. And even just talking about like my own, personal struggles in this, you cannot know how many times I've been in a really fragile state of being, and then I find myself getting just lambasted and destroyed on Twitter or Instagram or someplace. And I've actually had that thought to myself, if these people only knew how much I was going through, I don't know if they would be this cruel.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Because this is pretty fresh for me because last night was pretty horrific for me. And I came in pretty exhausted. And I had to sit down with Kim and say, I'm making progress because it's gotten worse. I start moving into night terrors before I'm asleep. And I'm having like talk myself out of this. And I said, you know how exhausting it is to die over 1,000 times? Yeah. And I think when people look at you with success, and maybe they want your success, or they look at you with some level of fame, and sadly they want that fame, or they see you maybe with some level of wealth and they want that wealth. Yes. They feel like, oh, that person's stronger or more powerful than me, so I can destroy them a little bit, make myself feel good, and it's okay. And what you don't realize is that all of us probably have our moments where we're really fragile. Mm. And I want to always like help a person get better. Mm. I want to help a person find healing. Mm. And I don't need to belittle someone else to make myself bigger. No. And I think that that's a part of where our culture is at. We don't believe we can become more, so we have to make other people less. And I feel that like I don't want to become a worse chess player. I want you to become a better chess player. And the better you are, the better I have to get if I want to keep winning. Mm-hmm. And I started, there was a certain point along the way where when I played with you, I knew I couldn't play at my best. And then when you beat me.
I mean, I didn't play you for a decade probably. Yeah. Because I couldn't play you.
And then you beat me.
It was so demoralizing.
Some number of moves that I was not happy with.
Under 12 for sure.
No, it was like 28.
That's not even true.
And okay.
I remember
fact checkers.
I opened with my queen's rook pawn.
No, and I'm talking about the one like 2 weeks ago or something like that.
Oh yeah, it was 33 moves.
So when you beat me in that match, I thought to myself, oh, I need to bring my best game, or I'm going to get beat.
And I haven't won since.
No, you did. You won one at a time.
Okay. And it's like 2-6 right now.
But that was like to me the most rewarding loss because I gave you my best game, and you still won, and which means I have to elevate my attention. I have to elevate my perception. I have to elevate my thinking, and I love that. And I maybe if the application of this particular podcast can be about everything, about anything, is that when other people don't live up to our expectations or our standards, or even the standards they should live up to, instead of using their failures as a way to make ourselves feel better. Mm-hmm. Let's use their failures as an inspiration for ourselves to be better, and to live up to more. And then let's celebrate everywhere someone is doing well, and celebrate where other people are inspiring us, because we don't want to just be thirsty for where people mess up. We want to be thirsty for where people are doing well, and celebrate that.
Love it. I think that's good to wrap up on that. Hey, thank you so much. You're listening to the Battle Ready podcast with Erwin and Aaron McManus. And if you're listening to this on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, we just want to thank you and hope you guys are doing well and have had the best Thanksgiving holiday. This is on Black Friday, I guess. And so maybe this is a little bit of a darker episode again for Black Friday. What's up?
Battle Ready's on sale today.
Battle Ready's on sale.
Oh, that's right. No, it's always free.
It's always free. You can sponsor us.
Oh, that's a great idea.
We were thinking about doing ads. I don't know if we'll do ads, but you can sponsor us.
I would much rather have patrons than ads.
Yeah, you can go to the link in the Battle Ready podcast Instagram bio, and on Anchor you can give like 99 cents. You can give $5. You can give $20. You can support, but whatever you do.
I don't want to hold you back. You can give 10,000 or 100,000.
I don't think you can. I don't think you actually can. But if you want to, I'll send you my account, my bank account number if you want to give $100,000.
Because it's free to you, but it's not free to us.
No. It's definitely. We have a team and we works really hard and we're really grateful. So we love you. Happy Thanksgiving, and we will see you back here. We haven't decided if we're going to do December for Battle Ready. We will see, but we will see you soon.
All right, we'll see you at least in 2021.
Yes, we will. All right. Goodbye.
Bye.